We're going to talk a little bit about judgment. I guess you don't have to say your name. Your name, how familiar you are with a book, like Dawn was just saying that she reads it once a year, or if you're new to it, or if you've read it once a years ago and now revisiting. And then just for fun, what your favorite dessert is. That's a puzzler. How to choose. So I can start, if everyone's okay. I'm Sharon. And I have been reading the Four Agreements numerous times over the years, probably for about close to 20 years. So I reread it I don't read it every year, but I read it every couple of years. And this past winter and spring, I actually took an online course that Miguel Ruiz is offered. And I just got some more in-depth information about it. And so I'm just excited to be here and lead the discussion, guide it. I'm not really going to lead it, I'm just going to guide it. And to help all of us to even take a deeper dive into the book. And my favorite dessert, I had time to think about this because I came up with the question. It has to be a hot fudge sundae with lots of hot fudge.
Classic.
It's classic. All right, Renee, you want to go next?
Sure. My name is Renee, and I have been attempting to read the Four Agreements for probably almost as long as Sharon first read it, because she recommended it to me all those 20 some odd years ago. And I've never been able to get through it. I get lost in it. And so I welcome this class because I think it will be helpful to me, but I struggle with it. So I'm here for help.
You're in the right place. And what's your favorite dessert?
Oh, well.
If you're on a desert island, you can only have one.
I probably have to say some sort of chocolate nut, maybe raspberry version of a cheesecake from Cheesecake Factory.
Oh my.
There's just too many to choose from.
I love it. Thanks, Renee. Debbie, you want to go? Oh, we're not getting your audio. Should we come back to you?
Lip readers.
There we go.
No, that was Nancy.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
I have heard about the book, and I think they did it maybe a series at church, because I've heard all of the agreements, but I haven't read the book. And I bought it on Audible today, and I was listening to it as I was working. So that's where I'm at. So I've never actually read the book. So, but I started listening to it today, and sidebar, I discovered that if I have the book in my hand and hear it on Audible, I remember what I'm reading.
Yep.
If I just read the book, I forget. It's like, anyway.
No, that's good to know.
My favorite dessert, I would have to say, from when I was a child, blueberry pie.
Wonderful.
It's by my grandmother, but.
The Audible version is awesome. If people like Audible books, I also listened to that about a month ago in preparation for the class, and the narrator is fabulous, Peter Coyote. It's really, really fun to listen to.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, let's go down to Dawn. And only as you're able, if you need to just take a pass, Dawn, because you're not feeling well, just say pass.
No, I'm good. As I said, I just recently, last time I listened to the book was in November, after I decided that I was ending a relationship.
Oh, wow.
So the book, and it, and I'm an Audible. I read it first, but I just play it on Audible, and it allowed me to have so much clarity. So very special. Like I said, when we were met last time, I was super excited about the topic. and just think organically. It just has special meaning to so many aspects of your life. And as a coach, it is part of, my coaching curriculum, especially the first agreement, being impeccable with your words. This is really big for me. And 'tis the season now that we are, sure does feel like fall in Minnesota.
Minnesota.
It does.
I love homemade apple pie.
Mm.
A scoop of some bomb vanilla Haagen-Dazs on top,
Ooh.
and I am just golden.
Thank you.
All the feels.
All the
All the
feels.
all
feels.
the feels.
All right, how about you, Margie?
So I'm Margie. I actually have 2 copies of the book, and I can't find either one of them. And which means I've either the place that I haven't gotten to, or I literally donated both of them in the last 6 months. I've not listened to them, but I've read them both. So I read both copies. I've had a couple iterations over the years. And then I believe I saw his son at Unity. We had a visit. He came and did a speaking engagement at Unity. The book is always a little upsetting to me, because they're the agreements that I struggle with the most, and they're so simple. And so it's just interesting how the most simple can be the most challenging. And I loved the domestication video. And I have 4 grandkids, and it's really kind of depressing. Today, it's just a little depressing to think about what we do to these amazing people. So, but tomorrow's another day. And so I'm really excited to read this and try to be neutral and try to not take it personally. Haha. And I love that we have support for each other, so it can feel safer, and that we're not in this alone. For dessert, I like all desserts, but chocolate, deep chocolate sauce, chocolate filling. I don't think I've ever had a chocolate dessert where everybody else said, oh, it's too rich. I don't think I've ever had one. That doesn't even make sense to me. I just like much chocolate.
Are you
Awesome.
my sister? I think you could be my sister, Margie.
I'll take it.
Thank you, Margie. Nancy, we'll go to you.
I have had the book for several years. Actually, I have 4 books in a nice little packet that I've never read. And I started to read, I'm like you, Renee, I started to read it once and put it down. I just didn't speak to me. So I picked it back up and started reading, and I love it. Haven't finished it yet, but I'm close. So I'm just really excited to kind of see what everybody else thinks, and kind of really try to really incorporate it into my life, because I think it's easy to read a book, but sometimes it's hard for you to then just take it and go with it. So I'm looking forward to that piece of it. And as far as desserts, I'm an ice cream gal. So I am right now infatuated with, I think it's Kemp's, and it's like special edition, and it's brownies and sea salt caramel and vanilla. And then I put a lot of walnuts on top and eat it.
That sounds awesome. Thank you. I think one of the values of having a discussion like this for a few weeks is that we can really start to apply the agreements instead of just reading it. I know when Unity Minneapolis did the series a few years ago, it's probably been 4 or 5 years ago now. That was helpful. I learned more, understood more just from having discussions around it. So I'm glad you're here. And Shatrice is joining us. Kelly, we'll go to you next.
Okay.
Then we'll come back to Shatrice.
Cool. I'm Kelly, and I read the book a long time ago, and it may have been when Unity Minneapolis did it, but I think about it all the time. I don't know what what that means, but the agreements, it's like they sort of stamped themselves into my brain. And I think about, don't take it personally. be impeccable with your word. You know, they're so simple. And that phrase that we came across, that something about this small book that has such a powerful impact, or whatever that phrase was. That's what it did. I really think I want to listen to it though. Debbie, what you said hit home to me. I actually did that with all those, the books about the time traveling woman to Scotland, where I listened. Outlander. I listened to the books and read them at the same time. And oh, she's a beautiful narrator, but it really helps. I love listening and reading. So that's a good thing. I think I'll do that again. Ice cream, coffee ice cream, any kind of ice creamy dessert, tiramisu-ish, something like that. Chocolate, yeah, not a chocolate person. I'll eat it. Okay.
Ooh, are we making a judgment?
What?
What?
Sorry.
About Kelly not liking chocolate?
Thank
Oh,
you.
fun. Well, thank you. Shatrice, I don't know if you want to join us. I don't see a vid. Oh, there you are. Hello, welcome. So we're just introducing ourselves and how familiar we are with the book, and then what our favorite dessert is, if you'd like to participate. And your mute is on.
Yep.
Okay, there I
There you
go.
go.
I've read the book a couple of times. I recommend it very, very often. It's been probably like 4 years since I read it, and I intended to kind of reread it before we started this, but it's sort of like what Kelly was saying. I live the principles in so many ways that maybe, we'll see which parts of it I reread. But like, for example, always do your best.
Mhm.
Like right now, I'm not feeling particularly well. I'm a little bit just worn out. Days are running together. Someone's going to do a study later about how this impacted all of our sense of time with the crisis.
Mhm.
I can't tell the weekend from the weekdays, and I hear people saying the same thing. And so, my body is responding to that. But right now, in this moment, I am really doing my best. Sometimes your best is a lot, and sometimes your best isn't as good when you're not feeling well. So just I feel like I live the principles, particularly that one, be impeccable with your word and always do your best. So I decided to make the effort to spend some time and just share, because just people who usually read the book, we're all of like mind in some particular way. So really excited to just kind of share the energy with folks of like mind today. Ice cream is my favorite food group, so I could go on.
I'm
It's
with
a whole
you.
food group. That's awesome.
I would say right now I'm feeling strawberry cheesecake. I found a place that makes
Ooh.
it homemade. It's like you could practically taste the rock salt.
Mm.
And then if I have to buy it kind of off the shelf and on the go, I'm feeling kind of fish foodie. So chocolate with like marshmallows and more chocolate in it and a little bit of caramel. So that's me.
That's awesome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right, well, we thought we'd spend just a couple minutes. I'm going to try to share my screen and just kind of show you where things are in the classroom, so that you can see how to get there. And Kelly, you have to jump in because you're the expert on the Athena Village. And I'm going to share blah, blah, blah. This one, I think. Okay, I'm going to go back to the network, to the main home. Kind of echoing. Can you hear me?
Yep. Now
Okay.
we can see it now.
You can see it? Okay, great. So when you log in, I think this is the landing page. Is that correct, Kelly? Okay. So you'll want to find the class materials and assignments that are coming up, and of course, the song of the week when that gets posted, because that's important. So you are going to go into what is now called the Learning Center. So you click on that. And then it should come up as featured, and you just click on the 4 agreements. So this brings you into the class page. And up here we'll have some featured items. So for instance, last week or earlier, I don't remember what I did, but I put up kind of the welcome so people would know what to do. Also the start here that comes out of Mighty Networks, just kind of about mutual agreements for the class. And then there's also different, the events that Kelly created for us with the Zoom information and that kind of thing. And then here you have the feed. So this is, in the last couple days, I posted these domestication videos that Don Miguel has out on YouTube. They're really well done, I think. So I think I'm also going to put them into our weekly activity as a reference going forward. So there's 2 parts to the domestication, part 1 and part 2. But this is a place where if you find something interesting related to the 4 agreements or to the class discussion, feel free to just start a conversation here, and people can then view, you can put in links, songs that inspire you, songs that came to you during the week, anything like that. And it's just a fun activity feed that we can kind of comment on and keep up with. Kelly, anything to add about that?
No, except that if something that you're saying relates to one of the agreements, when you post, you click on a post like you're going to post something, Sharon. And just click on it. Then you see add topic. And
Right
like
there.
if it's something about be impeccable with your word, you can tag it with that agreement. So then if you want to go in and look at any conversations about the agreements, you can go into topics.
Yes, that's a neat little feature. So thank you for pointing that out.
Mhm.
How do I get out of here?
Show them the weeks over to the left.
Oh, it'll just go click out. Okay. I don't have anything to post right now. Okay, so my screen will look a little bit different because I'm putting the course together. But when you go into weeks, you'll see overview was just some information I posted. And this was to bring people into the class. This introduction is also very good. If you haven't had a chance to watch that video, they're all really short. They're a matter of minutes. So, and just some more things about the class. And then you'll see each week. So we're here at introduction for the first week, and your assignment was there. And then I'm also going to have a song of the week. So I'll probably post those over the weekend before our class. Once we finish up discussion, I will post the discussion questions that I put together here. I don't want to post them ahead of time because I want to try to stay spontaneous, and we might veer off somewhere and that kind of thing. And then we will also post, because we're recording this, we'll post the video, correct, Kelly?
Yep.
Yep, so then if you have to miss a week, you will know what some of the questions were that we talked about, and you can always go back and watch the video if something comes up and you can't make it.
And
So, go ahead.
about privacy, some personal things might come up in here, but that's one of the things that we like about this platform. Nobody who has not signed up for this class can see within the class. So if you haven't signed up for the class, they can't see these videos or the conversations or anything. So it's a completely private space for you to say what you want to say within this group and within these people. So
What
Yes.
happens in the village stays in the village.
exactly right.
Exactly. So those are the weeks. The members, you can see, you can sort by anybody who's near you or who's the newest to join. Any guides, who's online now. So you can see all of us who are going to be part of the discussion. And the about is just general information about the class and description. And then topics were those are the keywords, the tags. Yep. Events is where we'll have the Zoom, and you can add it to your calendar, view the event, so you can see all of the different events. And then this is a chat. This is just a chat internally to our the people who've signed up for the class, for the discussion. So you can see Stephanie I posted an article last week about the 4 agreements and tying it in with the theme of action in Athena Village. So Stephanie was commenting on that. But this is, again, a good place to have conversation or questions. It'll show up in the all-member chat. Any questions about that, or is that helpful to see?
Oh, I will say one thing about notifications. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Athena Village, this platform, if you go and click on your face, Sharon, then you go to your settings, and when you're in the village, you can really drill down into what kind of notifications you get. So if you click on notifications here, you can turn off emails completely if you want. And there's an app for this platform, so you can get notifications on your phone or your iPad. And if you scroll up, because you're in a class, you can turn off and on a bunch of the different kinds of notifications, and then you can say, let me know when Sharon posts new stuff in this one class. So just click on your face in the upper right-hand corner, go to settings and notifications, and really drill down to decide what types of notifications you want to get.
Yep. I think I've got them almost all turned on. Here, I'll turn that one on too. All right. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. Thank you. Oh, Jan's here. Hi, Jan. Do you want to do a quick introduction, like 30 seconds, your name, how familiar you are with the 4 agreements, and what your favorite dessert is? Oh, her internet's a little, you must be up north. Your mute's still on. You're mute.
Oh, now?
Nope, now you're good.
You're good.
Okay. Hi, my name is Jan, and I've read the 4 agreements. Probably, I don't know, 4+ years ago. So I've had the book, but I haven't gone back to it since reading it the first time. And yep, I'm up north doing lots of projects. I'm the one who posted that I had a blessing of the tree or blessing of the forest, because we removed 50+ trees today and probably more tomorrow, lots more tomorrow.
Awesome.
There are dead balsams. And my favorite dessert would be, I would say strawberry rhubarb pie a la mode.
Excellent. Thank you. We're glad you're here. So I think we'll move into the book now. And I think the easiest thing to do, if you want to make a comment, I'll throw some of these questions out here. We can take off in any direction. Feel free to share. I guess just some of the mutual understanding is just make sure you are giving other people a chance to talk. So not a lot of, I don't want to say long-winded, maybe that's a little too judgy, but keeping things concise. I think the easiest way
we
to
won't be taking it personally.
Right? Exactly. So when you want to say something, maybe just raise your hand physically. I think that's the easiest way in some other Zoom groups I've been in, that to let people know when you're ready to contribute. You can certainly just listen. Don't feel any pressure to talk, participate. I want you to be at your comfort level. And as Kelly said, everything that is said in the group stays private in the group. I think that's all I had for housekeeping. So let's look at the introduction and the story of the Smoky Mirror. So what were it's just a few pages. What were some of your impressions when you read the Smoky Mirror? 3,000 years ago, there was a human just like you and me who lived near a city surrounded by mountains. And I think everybody recalls what he discovered. But any thoughts or impressions when you read that story again, or for the first time? Nancy? You have to unmute though, love.
I was actually unmuted. I muted thinking that was better because everybody else was muted. Okay, so I guess the one thing that struck me was everything is God, and that's very unique. Since several of us go to Unity, that's just felt very Unity-like to me and very familiar. And
Mhm.
yeah, that's it.
Anyone else? Thoughts, impressions? Such a simple little parable. One of the things that stood out for me was that it reminded me of the story of many prophets, gurus, teachers, is that when he tries to tell them we're all God, and they don't want that. They want to put him up on a pedestal. I thought that was really interesting because we see that a lot. I think coming from a Christian background, Jesus was trying to tell us the same thing, and we didn't want to hear it. And Buddha too. I mean, the Buddha was saying, you can do this too. We can all be enlightened. We can all reach this. So, and I like that he named himself the smoky mirror, and recognizing, knowing that we are one with each other, but the smoke is in the way. The fog. Margie?
So what's interesting about that is it ties to the domestication piece where we learn to order people. We learn to create a hierarchy and to put ourselves somewhere above or below, or so it may be a much more natural state to know that we're one with everyone.
Yeah, that's a really great observation. It does tie into that. We're domesticated to search for those agreements so that we can have a place for everything. So when something comes to us that's outside of that paradigm, we try to fit it in to the paradigm. Great observations.
I also, sorry.
Go ahead.
I also liked the quote by John Lennon: "Living is easy with eyes closed, misunderstanding all you see."
Yeah.
Smoky mirror.
Yes, the smoky mirror. Yep. Yeah, I like that too. Excellent. So,
Renee, did you have your hand up?
unmute.
It always takes a while. It didn't come to me at the time when I was reading it with Peter Coyote, because I had him right in my room with me. But as in your discussion, it brought to me the knowledge of the hierarchy of how we have a tendency of looking for, the father, the grandfather, the leader, the president, the king. It reminded me of Elizabethan world picture, something that I've studied, that was very much a part of their whole existence, was, everything from demons to angels to, to God, to everything was in its place of status. And there's the different levels of status, from the worm up to the tiger, up to, until you get to God and King. And so it's been around for a long time. And just in thinking about how long it's been around, I was thinking it's connected to the patriarchal world, moving in from the Piscean age to the age of Aquarius, that whole thing, that need to, how we should let go of any guilts, because this patriarchal, hierarchical way of seeing the world has been with us for so long.
Mm-hmm.
That's
a really good observation, because there is a certain amount of the patriarchy in this, in the judgment, and in the not seeing each other as one, which is much more of a matriarchal or feminine energy. So I think that's a really good observation about this. And you're right, it's been around a long time. So it's kind of hard to fight through. Thanks, Renee. So In the first chapter, Domestication and the Dream of the Planet, Ruiz talks about everything being a dream. And he talks about a personal dream and the dream of the planet. So what did you think about this kind of concept? Was it hard to accept or to understand? Is it, for me, it takes a little bit of a leap to think that, you know, this solid mouse that I'm holding in my hand here is really just a dream. So I don't know if anybody else had any thoughts about that and how we dream awake and asleep. No, it's all good. Go ahead,
For
Renee.
me, somehow it just kind of made me think of Sheldon Cooper in the Big Bang Theory. Just for me, it felt almost more scientific of Einstein or whoever just saying that everything is an illusion.
Everything is energy.
Yeah, it's all energy, and that it's, you know, anyway, so, but that was kind of the connection I made.
Yeah. Margie?
And I wonder if it's also tying somewhat to, yep, everything's an illusion and it's all a construction of my center, my view.
Yes.
Which is why we can be neutral and distant. We don't have to be overwhelmed by it or engage so much because it's all my own. I'm making the meaning anyway. And I can make a different meaning and not worry about it.
Yeah, very true. Because it is a construct. He talks about the movie theater, I think, is that in the first agreement? I can't remember now. Where you go to watch a movie, or maybe I read this somewhere else. I'm mixing up my chapters. You go to watch a movie about, and it's your life, and you're like, oh, look at me. I've got all these supporting characters. I'm the director and I'm the actor. And then you go into the next movie in the Cineplex, and it's your mother's story, and all of a sudden you're just a side character. And it's a completely different story. And you're like, what? So it is very much construct. That's what he is talking about. That we are co-creating. Kelly, go ahead.
That's interesting that you say that, and I will completely confess that I have not read it. I thought we were just talking intro, and I was going to get assignments.
No, that's okay. I jumped ahead. It's okay.
No, it's just me not paying attention. But it's interesting that you say that, because I'm in the process right now of helping my mother to put together her memoir. My 85-year-old mother is putting together her memoir, in which she is the matriarch and the leading character. And when you say it like that, I've been really resistant to actually read her memoir because I'm a little bit afraid of the part I'm going to play in there. And now that you say this, I'm like, I wonder what that's all about. Because when we've gone through as a family all of our alcoholic family drama, are all of the dramas that we've gone through as a family with mental illness, with alcoholism, with whatever we've gone through. I just counted, I've lived in 35 places in my life. So all of the moving drama. I'm the rescuer in my family. So when you say that, all of those thoughts just went whoosh. I wonder if that's why because I'm making it all about me.
Which we all do.
Which we all do, but so then I think about the agreements, don't take it personally and all of that. And I'm like, all right, how do I step back? How do we all step back from this drama that is life?
Yes, and that's a perfect way to say it, because that is what the 4 agreements can help you do.
Yeah, wow, I hadn't ever thought about it like that. So just those couple little things that just made me think so totally differently.
Margie?
Yeah, just real quickly, one other thing is, this book to me would be different if I didn't believe in reincarnation.
Oh, say more about that.
Well, I'm not telling anybody else to believe in it or not believe in it, but it makes a lot more sense to me that I can be neutral and distant, and there's characters in the play and it's all my creation and illusion. if I'm coming multiple times and have a lot to do over a big span. If it's just a one time, I would think that would make that a lot harder
Okay,
to understand or to make sense of.
Mhm.
I see
Like,
what you're
what's the
saying.
purpose?
Right, what's the purpose? Yep, I can see that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So let's talk a little bit about domestication. He writes that we are domesticated in life by everything the minute we come into life. And I do want to get back to the neutral part that you talked about and stepping back. I have one more thing to say about that. So let me come back to that. We'll put that near the end. So domestication, and he talks about attention on page 3. If you have this, I think there's only one version of the hard copy, but he says attention is the ability we have to discriminate and to focus only on that which we want to perceive. We can perceive millions of things simultaneously, but using our attention, we can hold whatever we want to perceive in the foreground of our mind. The adults around us hooked our attention and put information into our minds through repetition. That is the way we learned everything we know. So it's like we become domesticated by when our attention gets hooked. And I don't know if anybody had thoughts about that or about just domestication in general. I was a little offended when he says that we're domesticated just like a dog or a cat. I'm like, well, I'm a human. I don't know if anybody else had that reaction, but I thought like, what?
Interesting.
Any thoughts on domestication or the rules or who we learn them from?
Can you define domestication as he defines it, like I said?
Sure. Let me
The
find
bad
it in. I think I might have another highlight. Let me try.
I'm
Here we
sorry.
go. No, you're okay. So I read, okay, I'll just read a little bit if that's okay with everyone.
Mhm.
This is starting on page 5. As children, we didn't have the opportunity to choose our beliefs, but we agreed with the information that was passed to us from the dream of the planet, which is the overall cultural, it's culture, society, family, that's the dream of the planet, all that combined. So we agreed with the information passed to us from the dream of the planet via other humans. The only way to store information is by agreement. The outside dream may hook our attention, but if we don't agree, we don't store that information. As soon as we agree, we believe it, and this is called faith. To have faith is to believe unconditionally. And then he goes on to say that's how we learn as children. We agree with them and our faith is strong so that it controls the whole dream of our life. And then skipping on to page 6, I call this process the domestication of humans. And through this domestication, we learn how to live and how to dream. In human domestication, the information from the outside dream is conveyed to the inside dream, creating our whole belief system. And then he goes on from there. Does that help, Kelly?
Mhm.
And I had a friend last week, we were talking about this book, and she said, well, I didn't believe everything my parents taught me. In fact, I rebelled against it. I don't know if any of you had experiences like that too. And he does talk a little bit about rebelling. So I'm like, a lot of my beliefs are not my parents' beliefs. Any
Yeah.
thoughts about that?
Yeah, but.
Yeah, but.
Well, I'm very different from my parents, but I don't think a sponge can decide not to soak up the water it's raised in. You know, and this, what you just read really brings me back to thinking about all of the, the calls that I've been on with Dawn and her people, and the her Wellness Wednesdays, and the anti-racism stuff that we've been learning about, and the white fragility stuff that we've been learning about, and domestication. I mean, how can a sponge not soak up the water it grows in, you know?
Yeah, Renee, go ahead.
No, and first of all, I love that imagery of using it as a sponge. So you're absolutely right. In my recollection, though, I mean, I remember I soaked up everything that my parents and my brothers and sisters told me. And, you know, at church, for me, all of his language resonates with church, how you just, you know, your faith begins because of what you're told in whatever religious setting you might be in. But for me, the thing that shifts it is other things that draw our attention. So when we get to the point where we're watching TV, or we're in school, or we meet a kid who's happens to be Buddhist, or when we have other things introduced to us that shows that there's other possible ways of living and interpreting and enjoying life, then comes the notion of, oh, do I have a choice?
Yeah, we have
That's-
Can I?
that is- I
Do
really
you
like
know?
the way you said that, Renee. Yeah, and it is, because I think about I don't have my parents' beliefs, and but when did that start happening? Well, other things hooked my attention as I even just like, even at church, I was raised Lutheran. There were certain things that I was taught about what Jesus taught that didn't coincide with what my parents were believing. And so what I was taught in Sunday school actually hooked my attention more. I'm like, this is not right. So, and that's maybe where the rebellion comes from. It's just that we're realizing there's other possibilities.
Anna, are you trying to talk down there? You're dark. So, okay.
Oh, there you are. Go ahead, Don.
Well, I think it gets to the point where you start to trust yourself, trust your own knowing. And that for me is where, the shifts become. That's where the unlearning, when you take the time to listen to your intuition and your gut, for me, that has been like life shifting, because innately, I think we were all born to, in this world, having free will to understand right and wrong. And that resonates when we are maybe hearing something that, that don't feel right, that don't sound right. Let me dig into this. Let me do my own homework and research. And the one thing that I, for sure, as I think a lot of this does help that we teach it in our homes, is that I am, teaching my sons to, you don't have to go with the flow. You don't have to fake it till you make it. Be authentic and stand for something, whatever, because, whatever your truths are. So truths and beliefs can, be fluid. Beliefs are definitely fluid, because you can totally have a different belief tomorrow, right? So it's not something that, oh, well, I believe this, but yeah, it's not a set in stone. Beliefs are not. You can change them in any second. And so just empowering people that, you can make a different choice and a different decision. We're never too old to unlearn,
Absolutely.
And so that's really important to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, my dog is scratching. Frida.
I thought she was clapping for me.
Yeah, there you go.
She
You don't have that clapper
was
thing
being
tonight.
so good. I thought we'd make it through the whole hour without a Frida incident.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna get. Will you excuse me one moment?
Yes.
I'm gonna get her rawhide so she stays quiet. I'll be right back.
I think about remember when we first started hearing the WWJD, what would Jesus do thing? And I remember being in high school and getting into one of those conversations with a pastor at a church I was attending, youth group thing, when all the other kids started going like this, because they're like, what is she doing? Because what they were talking about didn't feel like something I thought Jesus would do. And then I started hearing people go, what would Jesus do? And I'm like, and if we would all ask ourselves that phrase, whether you're a Christian or a Buddhist or whatever, the man, Jesus, the master teacher, as in my spiritual world, And that's kind of what people are asking right now, it feels like. And it feels like that's what the 4 agreements are kind of asking. When you get down to the heart of what humanity, like you said, Dawn, right and wrong. What would I do if I'm at the core of right and wrong?
Mm-hmm.
If you just ask yourself that, you know, it's kind of an easy answer. Well, maybe not easy, but I don't know.
Clear
Yes.
Clear answer.
Yep, there is clarity when you
There's
take the
clarity.
time, you know, to be still and listen to self.
Be still.
And you ask the questions. When you ask self the questions, because everything that we, you know, actually do require is inside of us. And we just have to get to that point where we're not always seeking all these things outside of us. And that's where I think we, you know, go awry. And again, that's one of the things, again, why I love this book so much, because it is so intrinsic, so intuitive, so inwardly, you know, and it is personal to us to make those choices. So that is like that's what resonated with me with this book. It was like, ooh, I have the power. I can do this, you know, and it makes sense. You know, and I hate being told, well, you should do this and you should do that. But I can tell myself if I should try to make changes and shifts. That, again, it was just so simple in principle, however, not simple in applying, right? And
Right.
big difference. But trying to be, you know, at least this book, bringing it into like your awareness, bringing it into your conscious awareness that you are, you know, talking about people or not being in alignment or using words that, ooh, those don't, you know, that wasn't kind. Ooh, that stung. You know, well, how would that make you feel if someone did that to you? And just taking that more of an inward responsibility, you know, on the power of your language.
Yes.
No?
Yep, absolutely. Thank you for those. Margie, go ahead.
Just a question. I'm wondering if anybody knows if he describes in any of his writings how he chose these 4.
He says they come from the Toltec wisdom that he was taught. So his story, I think it's in the back of the book. He's a physician and wasn't really interested in a spiritual path, and he had a near-death experience. So a near-death experience changed his life. Late one night in the early 1970s, he awoke suddenly, having fallen asleep at the wheel of his car. At that instant, the car careened into a wall of concrete. Don Miguel remembers that he was not in his physical body as he watched himself pull his 2 friends to safety. And so that's changed his life, and he started an intensive practice of self-inquiry, and went back with his grandmother, who had been part of this Toltec tradition that's passed down, and studied with her.
It says Toltec is words of wisdom from those who ruled central Mexico 1,000 years ago.
So I don't, you know, is it literally the words of I don't know. I kind of think it is, but he's very, if you've ever seen him speak, he's very authentic, he's very real. And a lot of these principles, he talks about this near the end of the book, we'll talk about that in a few weeks, but a lot of these principles really can go down, you can find them in almost pretty much every spiritual tradition. It's the core belief of spiritual traditions that are coming through here. So that's a good question. Thank you. I love the near-death, because he was very scientific and didn't want anything to do with any of this. So let's talk about just a little. We got about 7-8 minutes left. So he writes about the judge, with a capital J, and the victim, capital with a little case V. No, it is a capital V, and our own book of law. And I thought one of the things that I really liked I think almost every time I've read this, is he talks about how we judge everything. And the videos are just great for the domestication videos, showing how look at that guy. Oh, look at this. Oh, I'm ugly, I'm fat. All of these judgments, it's constant, right? It's up here, it's chatter. It's just constant. And I really like thinking about the idea of the Book of Lots, all these agreements that we've made throughout our life from our domestication or from something else that's hooked our attention. But I love when he says that we punish ourselves. I don't love that we do this. I love that he tells us we punish ourselves for the same thing over and over and over again. Over and over and over again because of that book of law, because of the judge, capital J, and then the victim. And one of the things that's really helped me in my life, because this book has always, it's been life-changing since the first time I read it, is that I've really let go of a lot of those, you know how you play something over in your head? I should have said this, why didn't I say that? It's 2 a.m. Oh, that would have been the best email to send. Why didn't I send that? I'd use replaying or, oh, never stop. I'd feel awful, you know, and letting go of some of those things. So I don't know if any of you want to have something to say about the judge or how you've experienced. What are some of the things you've judged and punished yourself for? More than you needed to be, if anybody wants to share. Or not.
I have something to say, just it has nothing to do with that, Sharon, but well, it kind of does. Is just how I wish that I had known, and I started kind of my some of my spiritual journey took me to Abraham, Esther Hicks.
Oh, same.
Yeah, and she talks about that your children are really born to be free and are born through you. They are not yours. They come through you. And I wish I would have known in 1987 and 1994 a little bit more about that, because I think, and I hope that there are people that are raising their children that way now. And you can't help what all the, everything out there in the world does to them, but at least you could affect them at home. And I think, and you were saying this, Shatrice, also, is just kind of not having those messages, that all those messages I think that you get out there, that you're, at least at home, you would have that kind of ability to be you and authentic and all of those things. But I think we kind of put a lot of shoulds on them and judgments. And so I think it does tie into what you're asking, Sharon, but it's just been something that's been going around in my head. And that's why I mentioned yesterday on the little post about a Born Free, because it just reminded me of my childhood and the song Born Free. And the original singer was I just listened to it last night. It was just beautiful. And it really kind of brought all that together for me.
Those are really great points. And here's what we have to realize, that those of us who are, it doesn't matter if we have children or not, if friendships, we're domesticating other people too. Whether we're trying to domesticate our parents, our children, our friends, our political rivals, all of these things. And we have a judge. I know I raised a very difficult child, and that is a judgment, also fact. But I had a lot of judgment about what I should do as a parent and who he should be. And because of my own agreements, what I thought parenting was going to be like, and when I let go of some of those, it made it a lot easier. And he's thriving. So we have to realize that it's not just us being domesticated, we participated in it unknowingly, or just trying to get through the day, but to let go, and the things I did that I feel like I did wrong, to let go of those. Renee, did you have something?
It's such a far way to the mute button. Just that, yes, and all of that what Nancy was saying and what you were saying, Sharon, for me, what really hits home is society and all the judgment. And this is probably sharing a little bit too much, but I live in a household with my sister and her husband, who I love dearly, but I'm a Democrat and they're Trump supporters. And having Fox News on all the time, and hearing just so many you should do this, you should do that, and I spend so much of my time just saying, please, we had an agreement, no politics. And I kept trying to fight with myself on, they clearly want to talk about issues, and I've tried to tell myself, okay, this is like being in the enemy camp. I can figure out why they think the way they think, and I can, maybe I can help. But when they want to know why I think the way I think, and I just freeze up. I won't have the confrontation. And I was thinking, are you an idiot? Do you feel like you can't defend why you feel the way you do? And I realized it's because I'm afraid I won't find the right words to explain myself without offending them. I don't want to use the word deplorable, but there are a lot
Which
of
would be
things
tempting.
which would be tempting. And so it's navigating that, like being in a place of love, knowing that I'm loved, and thinking so drastically different.
Mm-hmm. That's a
that
tough
I-
one.
That's a hard one.
That's a tough
I
one.
think
Yeah.
for me, it plays out, I would say, like in relationships because of me sitting in judgment of myself on what I'm attracting. So for me, a lot of the judgment is sort of, this is something that I've done. And it's crazy because when you do all the work and, you're putting in all that effort for us to be able to be talking about this, and Abraham Hicks, as well as, Mastering Life's Energy, we can go on and on because we probably all read, the top 5 books to get to where we are. But I still sit like, well, yep, we broke up last year. And yet, you know what I mean? Like, so seeing similarities play out in just different ways, I would say that that's where I play both the judge and the victim. And it's crazy, how, especially when it comes to the law of attraction, how much I put on my own shoulders. And don't just say, you know what, yeah, but that person could just be rude and they could just be a narcissist and maybe it's not you. But somehow, I play both the judge and the victim. And
Yes.
but not the victim because you've done enough work to not have to do that, but just to use those black and white terms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tatrice. That's very true. I really like
Well,
that.
and don't you think that's one of the challenges with the very sort of surfacey law of attraction, the kind of law of attraction stuff that people consume from media right now, when they don't really do the work? It's like, well, what are you doing to attract that in your life? And and to me, that's, we really have to have people like us around ourselves in order to help us do that, because it's really easy to get into that. Yeah, what did I do to attract X, Y, or Z into my life?
And then judging ourselves and blaming ourselves and being it's just like
Right.
this vicious.
It's a vicious circle. Yeah.
Margie, go ahead.
And I would never, ever, I would feel so sad if I thought I was judging my kids and my grandkids and all the people I love that way. And yet I do that to myself constantly. But I never do that to them because I care about them.
Right? Yep. It's very easy to practice love for others than for ourselves. But that's part of what the agreements can help us with too.
Good.
So that's what's exciting. So we're at just a couple minutes over our time. I will post I have just a couple more questions. And I'll put those in the lesson for this week if you want to look at them. I just want to, this is something from the course that I took. That I just wanted to read you with because it gives me so much hope. So it's a little long. Bear with me because I think it's worthwhile because it really gives a nice overall. Why the heck are we studying these 4 agreements? Well, here's why. As humans, we cannot avoid all suffering. We're going to suffer physical pain when we are ill or injured. We're going to suffer emotional pain when we lose someone we love. But there's another kind of suffering we can avoid. It's the emotional suffering we experience as a result of conflict with other people and conflict within ourselves. It's the suffering we experience because we believe things that aren't even true, because we make assumptions, we take them personally, and we blurt out words that we later regret. This kind of suffering is needless, and yet most of us experience it throughout most of our lives. Have you ever been wide awake in the middle of the night reliving an unpleasant confrontation with a coworker? You'd like to get a good night's sleep, but your mind is spinning out of control. Soon you're feeling guilty about an offhanded comment you made to a friend. Then you begin to worry about your relationship, your finances, your health, or a host of other nagging conditions. Have you ever overindulged in food, alcohol, or drugs to avoid facing unpleasant feelings or circumstances? You try to escape from your worries, concerns, your self-judgments, and guilt, but how can you escape from your own thoughts? Have you ever experienced the uneasy feeling you don't measure up to society's standards of beauty or behavior? Have you ever judged yourself for not being smart enough or talented enough, pretty or handsome enough, thin or fit enough, successful or rich enough? All of these ideas and beliefs are rooted in fear. They limit your life, deplete your energy, and contribute to needless suffering. There's a better way to live. The 4 agreements lead you to stop judging, mainly yourself, and to start practicing another way of life. They have the ability to break thousands of fear-based beliefs and agreements that lead to suffering and drama in your life. They transform your life by changing the way you communicate, not only with other people, but more importantly, with yourself. With practice, the 4 agreements help you recover the real you, your authentic self. And there is nothing more liberating than to be the real you.
Yeah.
And that's why I love this. We don't have to go back and dig through every agreement we've made over the past 56 years. I turned 56 today. Thank you.
Yay!
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. It's a great birthday evening to be with all of you. You don't have to like nitpick and go to 20 years of therapy and do these agreements can cancel out so many of those other agreements that keep us stuck. So that's why I get really excited about this book. And I'm really excited about this group.
Yay, thank you.
Any last thoughts, comments, anything? Okay. Well,
Thank you.
you're welcome. We'll post the recording in the class week for today, and I'll put my discussion questions. I'll paste them in there too.
Okay.
And then we'll plan on. Oh, next week's assignment is the first agreement. So that's easy peasy. It's in chapter 2. Be impeccable with your word.
Okay.
Oh,
We got
look for your song of the week. I have a really good song of the week.
Sharon, we have a hand up.
Did anybody go ahead, Renee?
Hi, I just wanted to say I agree with Debbie. For the first time, after years of struggling with reading this book, I had Peter Coyote read it to me while I read it in the text, and a lot more of it dropped in, shall we say. So,
Awesome.
And I
Yeah,
need to
it's a
get
really
the
good
book.
recording. Go ahead, Debbie, sorry.
I was just gonna say, I need to get the book because I just was listening to it on Audible today.
And
So,
there is a PDF version out there somewhere.
oh, there is. Okay.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find that. Let me write myself a note.
Yeah,
I have
maybe
Amazon.
post it.
I have
bought
Amazon
it
Prime.
on,
I could have it tomorrow.
I
Okay.
put it on my phone. I bought it in the Books app or whatever.
I don't mind contributing to the Ruiz family because of the work that they've done in our world. So, but if anybody, I'll see if I can find it.
That'd be great.
Okay. Great. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yay.
Have a
Happy
wonderful
birthday.
day.
Class. See
Thank
you
you.
in the village.
You.
Okay.
Night,
See you in the
everybody.
village. Bye.
Great job,
Bye.
Sharon.
Oh, thanks.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Night.
Bye.